Welcome, everybody, to the Growing Truth Network's weekly show, the Indianapolis Colts Weekly, where we are all very happy after Sunday night's events. Obviously, if you're a Colts fan, I am one of your co-hosts, Steve Risley, from Los Angeles, California, where it is, once again, 95 and sunny out here, which I kill for some rain. And I'd like to welcome on at this time my other co-host from beautiful Bloomington, Indiana, which is the prettiest campus in the Big Ten. And trust me, I've been to all the campuses in the Big Ten. Cole Hanna. Cole, how are you doing today?
Yeah, well, like you said, after last night's performance, I'm doing pretty good. Kind of a nice surprise that we got last night. And like you said, being on Bloomington, can't really complain.
Well, here's my question. Should we be surprised or – I mean, I guess it was a little, I think what was more surprising to me, and talk about this to start off with, is I think the Colts exposed a weakness in Kansas City Chiefs' scheme. They did the things it needed to do. First off, they played what was called almost every newspaper I ever read today, or every report on ESPN, everybody, smash mouth football, where they balanced out their attack, they ran it down their throat, they kept Mahomes off the field. And basically, Mahomes is their pretty much success in the last couple of years. They did not have a strong run game. We outrushed them. I'm looking right here. I think we ran for, 151 yards? No, that was receiving. 180 yards to their 36. So we put the ball on the ground, kept it on the ground, kept the clock moving, kept Mahomes off the field, sustained drives. Once again, Jacoby Brissett does not make any glaring mistakes. I mean, he's not Aaron Rodgers. He's probably having an MVP a year right now. So far, watching him beat up on the Cowboys, which I think that's your team, isn't it? Don't you like the Cowboys? Or that's Grant?
Yeah, I'm a Colts fan, but I played on the Packers all growing up in youth football, so they have a special place in my heart. I'm a Colts fan.
That's because your dad liked the Packers.
Yeah, that he did.
I didn't tolerate that crap too. So, so what was the big takeaway from last night? Are the Colts that good? Are they a better team than anybody thought, or is Kansas City just not? Oh man, I'm sick of the guy's broken leg. Oh, that's ugly. Oh, that's not going the right direction. Mahomes is hurt too. We'll have to talk about that too, so we get any update on his injury. But what's the takeaway from last night for the Colts?
Yeah, I guess you started out asking, was the outcome surprising? And I think it was surprising in the context of what the Colts defense did last week against Oakland, where they really struggled. Derek Carr picked apart that zone defense the Colts were throwing at him. And defensively, it was just a complete turnaround. They went away from the zone. They had no pressure on Derek Carr. And fast forward a week, and they have pressure all over Mahomes. They're making him scramble in the pocket and using his legs to make plays. And like you mentioned, once Patrick Mahomes got hurt and, the scrambling ability took a hit, you really saw the Chiefs' offense start to struggle there, and you saw the Chiefs really struggling to do pretty much anything on offense because Patrick Mahomes, when he was in the pocket and had guys, all over his back, really kind of looked rattled at times throughout the game. That's really something we haven't seen very much this season is Patrick Mahomes really being rattled. I mean, that offensive line could not keep him up, and we're even, unfortunately, part of the reason he was getting hurt was because their own guys are getting pushed all the way back into Mahomes. So defensively, I think it's surprising just because it's in the context of what they did last week against Oakland. But give the Colts defense credit, give Matt Eberflus credit. They really made some adjustments defensively, played up along the line of scrimmage defensively, jammed the wide receivers, played tight man-to-man coverage. They went away from the zone for the most part, and only rushed 4 guys and really dropped 7 guys into coverage. And when you're getting a pass rush, only rushing 4 guys, that's going to be a great sign for your defense. Now, offensively, I want to say it's surprising.
Let's stay with the defense for a little bit. Let's say we had talked the week before about we thought that the defensive line needed work, that they were ineffective, and that was probably the weakest part of this football franchise. coming into this game was the defensive line, but they held their own. Now, we've lost one of our defensive linemen, and I know you'll get to that and talk about that, but then that was an ugly injury. But Mahomes never looked comfortable when he took snap. I mean, he was always dancing and scrambling the minute he got the ball. Somebody was getting through him. So is that a sign that our defensive lines coach just got smarter and better and figured some things out, or is that just that Kansas City really is just relying on Patrick Mahomes' arm to carry them throughout this entire season?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. There were definitely some offensive line issues for Kansas City. I know they have some injuries up front there with, Eric Fisher being out for them.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely some improvement from the Colts from a pass rushing standpoint. Justin Houston and his return game to Kansas City, it was really a wrecking ball all game long and made a few really, really key plays.
Yeah.
And was just a disruptive force throughout the game. And the Colts were just getting home pass rush-wise. And it's been an inconsistent pass rush for the Colts. We've seen it be really effective like it was against the Chargers, like it was against Tennessee. And then we've seen it kind of not be so effective like it was against Atlanta and obviously last week against Oakland. So there's been an inconsistent element to whether the Colts are having a pass rush defensively. But against Kansas City, it was on. And hopefully it can continue to be that way. But, it's like you said, Patrick Mahomes was making some plays early in that game. I mean, the one play that's going to stand out, obviously, is when Mahomes scrambled. The Colts kind of collapsed the pocket. Mahomes got outside the pocket. I believe ran 40 or 45 yards total on the play before finally finding an open receiver in the end zone, about a 20, 25-yard pass to punch it in. And
but that's Mahomes. That's how he plays the game.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to tip your hat. You got to tip your hat to Mahomes and say a hell of a throw. But at the same time, defensively, if the quarterback's having to run around 40 yards in the backfield to try to find an open receiver, that probably means you're doing something right defensively. And you're making this guy get out and run. And the Colts just kept hitting him throughout the game and getting to him. And even if he got the throw away, they were just, making their presence felt, getting a hit on the guy. And those hits started to add up, and you kind of saw that mobility factor that Mahomes has been so famous for kind of start to disappear as the game progressed. And when that disappeared, the offensive line couldn't protect him. The Colts pass rush was too good. And credit to the Colts secondary, because they really did a great job in tight man-on-man coverage. I know the Chiefs had some injury concerns at receiver, but guys were struggling to get open. And when you have your two starting safeties out, especially Malik Hooker, who's one of the better ball hawk safeties in the league, that's an impressive performance for the secondary.
And you've got Darius Leonard out, too. I mean,
and Darius Leonard.
We know he didn't play either, and I know we both had heard that he had practiced all week with the team. But I think if you look at the big picture, and, of course, it works out because we win the game, but now he has 2 more weeks to heal and get back to 100 to 110%. Versus coming back to the game at 95%. So it worked in our favor. But credit to the defensive line. They only gave up 36 yards rushing total. I mean, and no NFL team is going to win a football game unless you have Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball 60 times in a game with 36 yards rushing. 14 carries on 36 yards is all they were able to muster, where the Colts went 45 carries for 180 yards. I think the defense came alive. And we've talked about our defensive secondary, I felt. You can comment on this. They're inexperienced. They're very young. And they brought that up in the broadcast, how inexperienced they are. But these guys go hit people. And they've got spunk, and they chase you down. They don't quit. I mean, they're all young, so they've got a lot of energy in them to get after it. And they did that last night. And they tracked down the receivers. They harassed them. And our defensive line held its ground. Our linebacking core did a good job of picking up when they got through. But, again, only giving up 36 yards rushing tells you a lot. So defensively, if the Colts can sustain this, now this is the $10 question. They got a week off now because they have a bye week next week. They have a week off so they can get some rest, get everybody healed up a little bit, get everybody healthy again. And take some time off, and I'm just going to have to watch NASCAR on Sunday because I'm not going to even worry about watching the Red Zone because the Colts aren't playing. I don't really give a damn. But defensively, this looked like a very solid, balanced defense for the NFL. You agree?
Yeah, no, it was absolutely a balanced performance, and every possible position group you could look at defensively played well.
Did
like
job.
you mentioned, like you mentioned, rushing wise, it was not just the pass rush that was getting home, with Mahomes in the backfield. I mean, there was no running game all game long for Kansas City. I mean, they had absolutely no help from Mahomes on the ground. And, again, it just shows you the absolute dominance along the defensive line for the Colts. They were the more physical team. They imposed their will throughout the game. So when you are able to do that defensively, it just makes everything easier. And the secondary played outstanding as well. I mean, credit to guys like Kerry Willis, who's a rookie being being forced into a bigger role with the injury to Hooker and Gathers, who I thought played a fantastic game. George Odom, another backup safety, made a couple key plays, including that big strip on LaShawn McCoy, on a screen pass that you thought was going to go for probably 30, 35 yards. Would have been another big play for Kansas City, and, that big strip really changed momentum in the game. And so you have other guys like Rocky Sin at corner, who's another rookie, who I thought played a very, very good game. So, you've got those young and inexperienced guys playing across those secondary, and they were still somehow able to really keep this explosive offense of Kansas City in check. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has never been limited to 13 points. It's never happened since he's been at Kansas City.
No. As a matter of fact, they were getting ready to set the record for, I think, 25 games with more than 25 points scored. I think I read that today. This would have been the 25th game they would have played if they had scored more than 25 points, which would have set an NFL record for one team scoring more than, and they got halfway there. I mean, and by no fault of anything other than the Colts defense. I mean, it's not like Mahomes had a bad game. I mean, Mahomes was 22 of 39 for 288 yards. He averaged 8.2 yards a pass, and did not have a pick. I believe he did not. He had a TD pass, so it was not necessarily a dismal night, except that I think what the Colts did was, by showing the way they played defense against him, they exposed the absolute rushing weakness of the Chiefs. So I think it's big problems for the Chiefs from this season out, because everybody's going to look at this game film and go, wow. So my question to you before we move over to the offense is, based on what we saw last night, are the Colts underrated or are the Chiefs overrated? More so, which of the two do you think is more pertinent, or does it matter, really? Because we'll probably have to play the Chiefs again.
Yeah, I think it's early in the season. It's really tough to make these claims. And I think Kansas City, they have a number of key injuries, and so does Indianapolis, to be fair. But you've got to wonder how they're going to be when they get some of those guys like Tyreek Hill back, Sammy Watkins back, Eric Fisher along the offensive line. Can he help shore up those issues there? You could be talking about a different team. And I don't want to say Kansas City is overrated. I guess it depends on who you ask. I think Kansas City, in my mind, is the second-best team in the AFC, even after this game. I think their offense is too explosive, and I think Mahomes, when he's healthy, completely healthy, and we'll have to see and monitor him. Is he going to be completely healthy this year? How serious is that ankle issue he's dealing with? But, I just think he's so explosive, and I think I don't see a clear-cut team better than Kansas City right now outside of New England in the AFC. I think Kansas City is just too explosive when you can contain them. And the Colts did a perfect blueprint on how to stop this team. But I think the issue here, and we can talk about it when we get to the offense, is just because the Colts did it doesn't mean every other team can do that. And I think what the Colts were able to do offensively in that game was such a big part of not just what the Colts were able to do defensively, but like when you look at the time of possession in that game, that's just a testament to the Colts' offensive line, and I'm not sure there's a team in the NFL with a better offensive line than the Colts do. So I don't think every team can necessarily copy what the Colts did, because you have to have the personnel to really dominate on the ground like the Colts did, and not every team has that. So there's definitely going to be some teams that are going to be, try to copy this blueprint, run the ball, rush 4, drop 7 guys into coverage, and try to pressure Mahomes. But you've got to have the personnel to do it, and I'm not sure, many teams have the personnel to do that, especially offensively when you look at how dominant the Colts are running the football in this game and have been running the football for most of this year. I think that's a testament to the Colts rushing attack and how good that is, as much as it is, a weakness of Kansas City.
Yeah, I agree, but I do think, like I said, I do think they created a blueprint and I don't know that I can say it's the Kansas City Chiefs are the second best team in the AFC. I don't know who I would put ahead of them right now. I mean, but I think they're a one-dimensional football team, and that's Mahomes' arm. And I think the Colts exposed that in a huge way last night with taking him out of the game. They basically took him out of the game. So that's a big exposure problem. And you're right, there is a blueprint now on how to beat them, but can anybody else carry that through? So that speaks highly to the Colts that they have the personnel in place that they can create too many opportunities to fail for other teams based on how our defensive line is doing, how our linebackers are doing. We get Darius Leonard back. We try and keep our defensive backs healthy, and we just chase things down and keep pressure on them. Now, when is the trade deadline? Is there a trade? It's like July. Is there a trade? When is the trade deadline?
Yeah, so there is a trade deadline.
When is that?
I believe it is the end of October.
Okay.
I believe October 29th is what I want to say. So it's
should
about
the Colts
3
be
weeks
trying
or so away.
Yeah, should the Colts be trying to shore up their defensive line a little bit? Because, I mean, we lost one of our players now, and you'll cover that. But should we be trying to look for how much do we got to pay to get J.J. Watt here?
You'd have to.
That way he can't kill us next week when we go to Houston.
You would have to offer them
2 weeks.
a whole lot. You would have to be giving them a whole lot.
But we have a huge salary cap. I mean, we haven't spent half our money. I mean, if anybody in the league could afford him, we could. Think about putting J.J. Watt on that defensive line.
Yeah, well, I think the issue is, look, I mean, when you look at the NFL,
and no, I'm not saying J.J. Watt. I'm making fun of that. He's not going to leave Houston. He loves Houston. He's a benchmark there, so he's not going anywhere. No, right. He's a franchise player, exactly.
Indianapolis. I mean, those two. I think Houston, and Indianapolis are going to be next.
They don't want to play against the
season. Yeah. Now, if the trade deadline, it's such a fickle thing, and it obviously depends. The bidding wars, and the Colts want to get into these bidding wars for these big name players that are going to help them. I don't know, but if there is one situation you want to look at, and maybe say there's an opportunity to add a guy along that front seven, I would be looking at Denver maybe. I mean, they're off to a bad start, 1-4. I know they
finally won. Yeah.
Yeah, they beat the Chargers this past week, and that's their first one of the season.
I took Denver in the pool, so.
Yeah, there you go. But when you look at their schedule, I mean, they play Tennessee, Kansas City, Indianapolis, Cleveland, Minnesota coming up. I mean, that's a brutal stretch of teams. And you guys wonder, okay, are some of those older veterans going to be available? I look at a guy like Von Miller, who has been such an effective pass rusher in the NFL for a long time. Is he going to be, available, such a kind of a fire sale for Denver? I mean, that's a guy that had 14.5 sacks last season for them. You never know, because it takes two to make a trade. You can't just say, I want somebody. They've got to be willing to part with him. But in terms of a situation, it's a veteran player, been in the league a long time. It's been an effective player in the league for a long time. If Indianapolis really wants to pursue, some outside pass rush help with the injury to Kamoko Toure, I think Denver might be a situation you can identify and kind of monitor and see if, Denver starts to come down on the asking price for a guy like Von Miller.
Yeah, but you spend that kind of money, you get Von Miller for 1 or 2 years, period. That's it. And really, the Colts, their GM and they've built themselves on getting young players in there, and it's still one of the youngest teams in the NFL. And they're doing it the right way. They're building a team franchise of. So I don't know what the answer is, but injuries are going to play a part in the season soon, and there you go. So it'd be nice to bring somebody in that could give you some time, but to go out and spend the money you would have to spend on Von Miller, trust me, he'd want Big Jack. He'd want J.J. Watt money. to leave Denver and come to Indianapolis. And I don't think he's worth that. So I guess you just stick with what you got, develop the players you got. They've obviously got a good defensive line coach. He's working on them. I mean, their defensive structure is solid. We got to get players healthy and just stay with what you got and keep doing what you're doing, because it's almost like it's become what used to be the no-name defense of the Miami Dolphins back long before, I don't know if your mom was even born then. So.
Yeah, well, who knows?
All right. Let's move over to the offensive side. Let's start with Jacoby Brissett. 18 of 29, 151 yards, 5.2 yards average, no touchdown passes, 1 interception. Quarterback rating of only 61, yet he's effective as all get out. I mean, he does what he needs to do. And because we have such a balanced offense, do we need anything better than Jacoby Brissett to play quarterback for us right now? I mean, he's not making any mistakes. He's not Aaron Rodgers. You know, he's not Dak Prescott. He's not a big play rate quarterback. He gets the job done, throws the ball efficiently, puts it where it needs to be. He's got T.Y. Hilton out there. He's got, Jack Doyle, Eric Ebron, who did not have another good game. I don't know what's going on with him. But and Hines had 4 catches, so he spread the ball around, and he delivers the mail. I mean, is there anything more important than that in this kind of an offense that a quarterback needs to do?
Yeah, well, the impressive thing with Brissett, this season is the 10 touchdowns to just 3 interceptions. He came into this game tied
Mahomes
with
only had 10 touchdowns, too. He was tied with Mahomes for touchdowns. Yeah.
So, he's done a good job of leading the offense. Obviously, that interception was a bad throw. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He just didn't read Tyrann Mathieu kind of floating it back, and it was a bad throw. You could see what he was trying to do, but just didn't read the safety well, or didn't see him.
And he's done that a couple times this season. I mean, I've seen that before, too, where he just totally didn't see the jump in the route, or the guy coming under him and move it, and he's got to get better at reading the defense. But still, if we give one of those up a game and we can get the results we're getting out of him, which basically is no glaring mistakes or no failure where he, shats on himself, for lack of a better word, which he has not done. I mean, are we happy with that? Just talking about the quarterback position, or do we need to go find a quarterback?
No, I think you're. Yeah, I think you're happy overall with what Brissett's giving you right now. Now, he's not necessarily racking up the most impressive games statistically, and no one's going to go to the box score and be like, wow, Brissett really had his way with that Kansas City defense. But that's just – I think as much of that of anything is down to just the Colts style of play. Why you don't need to throw the ball for 300 yards. You don't need to go back like Patrick Mahomes does and sling it and try to, throw for 40-yard touchdown passes when you've got Marlon Mack and you've got that offensive line up front. When you've got Marlon Mack and Jordan Wilkins who can go run for 4 or 5 yards to carry, set you up in 3rd and 1, I mean, you don't need to throw 30 yards down the field. You can just take 4 or 5-yard passes. And the offense can run efficiently like that. That's, I think, what we saw Indianapolis did. I think – yes, the 151 yards is far from impressive, but you don't need
they're
more
efficient
than that.
yards. I mean, they're efficient yards. I mean, like I said, I don't know that it's not that impressive because he threw 1 pick and it was a bad pass, and I expect that. But basically, all the passes he threw were efficient completions. He's protected well behind that offensive line. He's got time to make his decisions. He's got great receivers. So when you're putting up 180 yards, you got Marlon Mack running for 132 on his own, and we'll get to the running backs here. But I don't know that I expect any more out of him. I don't know. I don't know if I want to unbalance it that much.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much more or less the situation here. When you've got a team like Kansas City with an explosive offense, you knew coming into the game what the Colts are going to want to do was hold the football. eat up a lot of clock, eat up time of possession, which means, you're not going to take 50, 60-yard bombs. You're not going to try to score as quickly as possible and turn this into a horse race.
Keep Mahomes off the field.
You don't want to turn this into a track meet because that's playing into what Mahomes and Kansas City want to do. The Colts wanted to dominate time of possession, and I think that's why you see the lower passing numbers. I think it's just, A, how the Colts wanted to play the game, and B, it's how dominant the running attack was. I mean, the rushing attack was the go-to method of attacking Kansas City, and Kansas City couldn't stop it, so there's no reason to go away from it. It's kind of similar to what the Colts did week 1 against the Los Angeles Chargers. Obviously, different result. The Colts lost that game, but it was the same situation where Brissett, I thought, played a pretty good game overall. He maybe didn't have the flashy stats, but part of that was because the Colts just relied on the running game for large stretches of that game because of how dominant it was. So, I think you can't complain about what Brissett. You can't complain about what Brissett is going to give you right now.
He's efficient. He's
doing what he's asked.
That's how I rate him. He's not Aaron Rodgers MVP. I think Aaron Rodgers right now is having an MVP year right now. We'll see if it carries on, if he stays healthy. But I think right now, if I was going to pick an MVP in the NFL right now, I'd say it's right now what Aaron Rodgers is doing for the Packers, because he's basically carrying that football team with his arm. And I had more fun watching him. And I'm not a big fan of Aaron Rodgers. I don't know why I'm not, but I'm just not. But I got to applaud the guy. He's carrying them. But Brissett's just efficient. He gets the job done, and he does what the coaches want him to do. He doesn't sit there and say, I have to throw 40 times, 50 times a game. He moves the chains. And I think that's what you want your yeoman quarterback to do, is just say, I'm just going to move the chains. I don't care how we get it done. Let's just get it done. We're all getting paid. And I think Jacoby Brissett is solid. Again, I cannot think – he's thrown a couple bad passes, but other than that, I can't think of a big screw-up he's had this season yet. I think our defense came together Sunday night, and that changed the outlook of the Colts team entirely. So I'm satisfied with him. I mean, I wore my number 12 Andrew Luck jersey. Then I went out and threw it in the pool and lit it on fire. And now I'm going to get a 7 jersey. No, I'm really not.
Switch it out for a Brissett jersey. Yeah. No, but
switch it out for a Brissett jersey.
I think.
But I think he's just efficient. He's a very efficient quarterback. Yeah, that's all you can really describe him as. He's efficient. He's not Mahomes. He's not a big play rate player. He just delivers the mail, and he's got great receivers under him, and he's got a strong running game, and I think it takes the pressure off him. He's got the best offensive line, one of the best offensive lines. I never say the best because there's somebody will argue that point with you, but anybody that doesn't agree that the Colts offensive line is one of the strongest, because every time behind Costanzo, Nelson, and Palmer, Ryan
Kelly.
Ryan Kelly. I'm sorry, Kelly. Yeah, Ryan Kelly. They went left, and they're like, "Yeah, stop us. We're coming at you. You know where we're going. Come at us." And now you've got a Marlon Mack back there. So let's go to the rushing game. Does Marlon Mack become an NFL? I don't want to say superstar, but a bona fide NFL running back? I mean, 132 yards again. He's got to be in the top 3 or 4 in rushing in the NFL right now.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about it, Steve. I think he's one of the elite running backs in the NFL. I think he needs to be put in that category and give a ton of credit to the offensive line. I think they do a great job of blocking and opening holes. But, don't use that to take away from Marlon Mack. I mean, if you look at all the top running backs in the league, they're all going to have good offensive lines. It's kind of a pairing that, you can't really just have one and not the other to have a dominant running game. I mean, typically, if you're having a dominant running game like the Colts are, you have both ingredients there. You have the good offensive line. You have the good running back. And Marlon Mack is, I think, one of the elite running backs in the NFL. I think his vision, he reminds me of a Le'Veon Bell a lot of times, which is how patient he waits for holes to open up. And then when it does open up, he explodes through the hole. I mean, on that 25-yard run he had in the first half, where he just danced around and danced through so many different holes before finally exploding and getting down to about the 4 or 5 yard line. I mean, that was a thing of beauty, and that it really shows how he's grown as a player. Because when he first got to Indianapolis, I mean, he was an outside runner. He wanted to use his speed, get to the outside. And he's not the biggest guy, but he's able to run between the tackles now because you see the vision and you see how he's so patient and waits for holes to open up. He doesn't hit them too soon, doesn't hit them too late. He hits them at the perfect time, and he just explodes through it when they open. I mean, in my opinion, he is one of the elite running backs in the NFL, and he deserves to be in that same conversation as a Christian McCaffrey, as an Ezekiel Elliott, a Dalvin Cook, all of those guys. You've got to put Mac in that same conversation.
All right, and hang on here. Let me see what happened here. San Francisco just ran 83 yards for a touchdown. Who's the guy that did it here? 22 over Cleveland. Monday Night Football. It was an off-tackle run play.
Yeah, Matt Breida.
There you go. Yep. Matt Breida, yeah. There you go, 83-yard touchdown run. There you go.
Tough start for Cleveland.
I picked San Francisco to win this anyway. I think it's about Marlon Mack. I think that he reads the holes very well. And Nelson and Kelly and Costanzo and the other side of the line, they cut holes for him. But then he finds the holes himself in the secondary. Is what's amazing to me is that he knows where to go. Once he gets past that initial scrimmage, he does the work on his own, and he's got speed, he's got power, and, has he had any fumbles this year at all? Do we even know?
I don't believe so. I can't remember. I'm trying to recall if he has a fumble off the top of my head, and I don't believe – I don't think he has. Yeah, no, he has zero fumbles in the year.
Zero fumbles. So, he holds on to the football. He keeps it in his hands. What more could you ask for from a guy than this? Especially when you get that offensive line. Now, I think he's a beneficiary of that offensive line because I think they cut big holes for him. But watching last Sunday night, I thought that once he got past that initial scrimmage, he ran away from people. He found his own hole on the linebacking core and then just outran the secondary when he had to.
Yeah.
So it's a good mixture, and then still you've got Jordan Wilkins, who still is 7 carries, 28 yards. Doesn't sound like a lot, but they were important yards for us. Our rushing game is very solid, but it's based on the foundation of our offensive line. They're making holes for people that want to run. So that's good.
The offensive line is dominant, and we talked about the defensive line and how dominant they were at times throughout the game. But the offensive line was just as dominant. You've heard the saying so many times where the game's won in the trenches, and the trenches on both sides of the football were dominated by Indianapolis throughout the game. And Kansas City just had no answer for the Colts' running attack. You're talking a time of possession here of, nearly 38 minutes for the Colts to 22 minutes for Kansas City. If that doesn't tell you how dominant the Colts were up front, how they were imposing their will on the game and playing their style of football, then I don't know what will. Because that was exactly how Indianapolis wanted to play the football game. They wanted to slow it down, they wanted to limit the number of possessions, and they wanted to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. And we mentioned that last week on the podcast. I'm sure Kansas City knew it. They knew what Indianapolis was going to want to do. They were going to run the football, keep Mahomes off the field. But when you've got Quentin Nelson and Costanzo and Kelly and all those guys up front, it didn't matter if Kansas City knew what was coming. They couldn't stop it, and it was just dominant all around. It's one of the most dominant rushing performances I've seen from Indianapolis this year, and they've had a few of them. So, that says a lot.
It says a lot, and Costanzo really has established himself now as an all-pro left tackle. Brissett's protected on the left side, his blind side. He's protected.
Yeah.
You don't worry about that. And like I said, when we need 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, or whatever we do, I think we have the greatest percentage in the league right now of fourth down go-fors, don't we?
Yeah, well, we haven't failed yet. I believe we've converted.
We haven't failed yet. I think we're 100%. Every time we've gone fourth down, we get it, and I think that's an absolute attribute to our offensive line. So, okay, so offensively, defensively, we're solid. What were your thoughts on the kicking game? Did Vinatieri look solid? I mean, he made everything, but did you kind of get up there and kind of squirm every time? It's like, oh my God, what's going to happen here? We need this point because Mahomes can explode any second. Have we regained confidence in Vinatieri yet?
I would be lying if I'm still not nervous every time he steps up and gets ready to kick that field. I'm nervous. He hit all 4 of his field goals. I mean, we relied on him heavily in this game.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time,
the
longest kick he made was 32, right? So, I mean, those are kicks you expect to make. Because, these aren't –
They're chip shots for these guys. They should be chip shots.
They're essentially extra points that he was kicking up there.
Right, exactly.
So – credit to him. He's been hitting his kicks recently. I know he hasn't kicked a lot. He hit a 46-yarder, but, barely, but he hit it. But recently we haven't had the misses from him. We haven't had the missed extra points. And he looks better kicking. I mean, some of those kicks he was kicking through the first couple weeks were just, ugly to look
at.
I mean, you could just tell. You could just tell as soon as he kicked it, that was bad.
It was like watching me and your dad play golf.
Yeah.
Shank. It goes right. It goes way right or it goes way left. It's like, holy cow, the green is right in front of you. Why are you going into the lake or into the woods? and your dad and I both are very capable of that. That I felt like, oh God, he's just living my life now. That's what I do now.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's a great analogy.
Yeah.
But,
the only difference is that I just go out and buy a new set of golf clubs and think that's going to fix it. Your dad just quits playing, and he can't buy new kicking shoes, so it doesn't really matter. We've got to live with it. But I think I still have a fear of him being under pressure because really we had the lead pretty much all the way through this game, and we tied it up and it got tied up, but still we seem to be the dominant team all night long. And I thought, okay, that's not a lot of pressure on him. What's going to happen if we go down to Houston and he's got to drill a 48-yarder to win the game for us? I'm going to be shatting myself, waiting for the kick to get somewhere near the uprights.
Yeah.
To
make me feel comfortable with him as kicker, he's got to get in a situation where he can knock down some of those 40, 45-yarders consistently. Then I'll start to feel more confident. He can't complain about what he's doing right now. He's hitting the kicks he has to hit. That's great. But he's not hitting kicks that are challenging kicks. He's hitting
they don't look comfortable.
You expect him to hit 100% on. So. Yeah,
they don't. He doesn't look comfortable. They don't look comfortable going through. It's like maybe that's just us. Because of we basically could be instead of 3-2, 4-1 easily. Because the Chargers we lost because of kicking, basically. Lost that in overtime because we didn't make anything there. But we could be setting ourselves up for a good position and getting a bye week possibly or something like that. All right. Anything else offensively we need to touch on? I think the Colts look good. I think their balance is one of the best in the NFL, and I think that's something the other teams are going to try and model now. I don't know if they can do it because I don't think they have the offensive line that we have. I would not make a quarterback change in this football team right now. I don't think the Colts are planning on it. I mean, they're a lot smarter than I am. I'd stay with Brissett. I think he's doing a great job at managing the offense, moving the chains, get up and down. Marlon Mack continues to find the holes and use the holes the offensive line creates for him. Defense has been the big surprise. They're doing a great job. They're holding their own. Like I said, they're spunky. It's a spunky defense, if I could use that word. They just get after it. They're not the most talented, and I don't think anybody's going to be all NFL on that defense, but that defense is holding its own, and they took Mahomes out of the game. I mean, they disrupted him entirely. And that's the first time I've seen that happen with Mahomes, because for 2 years now he's ruled the roost back there in the Kansas City Chiefs backfield. And also, you got to give a shout out to Frank Reich. I mean, what a great coaching job. I mean, is he a Coach of the Year potential candidate right now? I mean, I would think so, but
you'd have to put him in the conversation, right?
When Andrew Luck retired, yeah.
I mean, everyone wrote this team off. This team wasn't going to be good enough. They relied on Andrew Luck. That's a star player. Without him, they're going to kind of collapse. And now they just beat what many people considered the best team in the AFC before this game. So, he's got to be in the conversation. That they've lost Andrew Luck, and they really haven't missed a beat. I mean, even when they had Andrew Luck, I think 3-2, 5 games into the season was probably a pretty common prediction for where this team would be sitting at. And even without Andrew Luck, they still find themselves sitting at 3-2. So, I think to really lose Andrew Luck, lose one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the NFL, and just continue like nothing's really gone wrong, that says a lot about, just the team as a whole and the balance and depth they have as a team, but also Frank Reich and the coaching staff to really just be able to reload with a different guy and continue right where you left off. I think he's really one of the elite coaches in the NFL.
Well, I think the thing there is it's the system above the players, and I think that's where he's done a great job, where he just plugged another player into the system, and the system works. Whereas not taking, like, if you took Aaron Rodgers out of the Green Bay Packers right now, they would flail miserably. And I don't think the Colts. I think the system is stronger than any player in the system. I mean, Marlon Mack was not a household name until he got into the Colts system, and now he's a household name.
Yeah,
because he's in the Colts system. Jacoby Brissett was not a household name, and actually they brought up a great point that in the last 2 years, Brissett, everybody's talking about Brissett. He had started more games than Andrew Luck had in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
He had actually started more games. So it's not like he's some schlep we brought in here. He's a bona fide NFL quarterback and doing a fabulous job. So, but the big thing now, a couple things we'll wrap up with here is, Kimoko Toure, he's out for the year. I mean, that did you see that break? Yikes.
Yeah. Yeah, that his foot is not supposed to point that way.
It's not. It was bent the wrong way. It's like, my wife looked at it and said, "That's not pretty." I'm like, "Yikes." What is our injury status? Do you have any updates on us? Where we are with injury? Who's coming back? We think Darius Leonard probably intentionally sat just to get 100% healthy. Saw the bye week coming and said, we can give this guy another 3 weeks or 2 weeks off. That's a great thing for us, getting back at full strength for the last half of the season and go from there. Is there anybody else we need to be concerned with right now that we don't know about?
Yeah, so, I think you got a couple injuries to monitor here. Obviously, Toure out for the season. Devin Funchess.
He's gone. Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. He's done for the year. You've got Devin Funchess, receiver.
I don't know that I'd ever want to play again with that ankle looking like that. It's like, that's enough of this shit.
Yeah, no, it's a tough injury to suffer, especially for someone like Toure, who's really a speed rusher. I mean, he relies on that athleticism. So that's a tough break. Hopefully he can bounce back. But, modern medicine is, leaps and bounds better than where it was even 10, 15 years ago.
What I wonder? I wonder this. I'm looking at a picture of him right now sitting on the cart with his helmet on, his uniform on. I'm like, how are you going to get my clothes off that this isn't going to hurt me?
Yeah.
I mean, my ankle is kind of going the wrong direction. It's busted, and I've got a football uniform on. I stink. I smell. I would just say, just put me under. I mean, just knock me out, put me under anesthetics, and then just do it all. But don't cut the clothes off me until I'm out cold, because I don't want to deal with this. But I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, they got to get his shoes off, his socks off, his pants off, his shoulder pads off, his helmet off. I'm thinking, oh, God, that's got to be the most painful part of the whole process.
Yeah.
Other than your initial look, when you sit there looking and go, oh, that's not good. But now you're like, now I'm awake and alert and know what's going on here. This isn't going to be fun. So, I don't mean to make light of it because, I mean, it's a serious injury and you hate to lose it, see it happen to any player. But other injuries, anybody else? What about our defensive backs? Are they coming back?
Yeah, so Malik Hooker is going to be one of the big ones. That's a guy that was expected to miss 3 to 4 weeks with that torn MCL. We'll see where he is after the bye week. It's possible we could see him return against Houston. That would be on, the shorter end of the expected time he'd be out, but expect him to return either against Houston or maybe even against Denver the week after. It probably seems like a rough timetable for him to return. Clayton Gathers, we'll have to monitor him as well. Similar to Darius Leonard, he's in the concussion protocol. We'll see where he's at with that because you just never know. But having a bye week, hopefully he can get back as well. Although that's a guy I think you'd really make an argument. Might have lost his starting position to Kerry Willis at safety. I think that's a young rookie who's really developed and played well. I think Indianapolis really likes what he's given them at the safety spot. But, moving forward, I think Devin Funchess is another guy, receiver. Colts could probably use him at receiver, big body, can go make some plays. He was expected to miss 8 or 9 weeks with that broken collarbone. So they've been through 4 weeks. So expect him to miss, another 4 or 5 weeks before he's back and ready to play. But, outside of those guys, I think that pretty much wraps it up injury-wise. Darius Leonard's the other big one. But, unless he suffers some kind of setback with that concussion, he should be good to go against Houston following the bye week. I mean, he was practicing this week up against Kansas City. People thought he'd be able to play that game.
Right.
Obviously didn't play. So he should be good to go in a couple weeks against Houston.
And like I said, it worked out well that he didn't play. Like I said, either they were expecting not to win this game and they wanted to rest him, or as it turned out, we won the game and we rested him. So he's got 2 more weeks to just get completely over it. And I would guess in 2 weeks' time he'll clear concussion protocol. I would guess. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, and I don't play one on TV yet, although I'm going to audition for one on a soap opera. Drake Ramore. See if anybody knows that name. And it's from Friends. It's from Friends.
Yeah.
That was Joey's role he played in the soap opera Drake Ramore, Dr. Drake Ramore.
There you go.
A little bit of trivia we don't need to talk about anymore. All right. So health-wise, I think the key to the Colts right now is keeping our offensive line intact and keeping them healthy. If we can do that, I think we're going to be fine. I just think, Kelly has been prone to injury at center. Costanzo has gritted it out and played hurt. Quentin Nelson plays so dadgum hard, he's going to kill himself at some point because he's killing everybody else. So eventually he's going to, and I think just keeping the offensive line healthy is the key to the Colts. And keep finding somebody to fill in at defensive line and keep pressure on the quarterbacks, because I think our helter-skelter secondary and linebacker defense, you get Darius Leonard back, I think they're going to cover you. I think they're going to protect it. Yeah. And our running game is solid. As long as our offensive line is healthy, they're going to dig holes, make holes, and we've got good backs back there that will find the holes and run through the holes and then create their own yardage in the secondary. So it's a good thing. The schedule. Look at the schedule real quickly. We play Texans in 2 weeks. Who does the Texans play this week? We talked about that. Who do they play? They play Kansas City.
They play Kansas City. Yep.
Well, I hope Kansas City's pissed off and beats them. That'd make me happy.
Game for Kansas City.
Then we play. So we got 2 home games. We got Texans and the Broncos. After a week off, we get a week to rest. We've got the Texans and then the Broncos. Then we go to Pittsburgh, which is tough. That's always a tough place to play. And we got the Dolphins, which we should be able to handle the Dolphins. And then we get into the Jags and the Texans. Yeah, Jags, Texans again, and the Titans again. But we play the Titans at home. this time at the Buccaneers, which the Buccaneers are not a bad football team.
They're looking better. Jameis Winston playing some good football right now.
Jameis Winston's doing a heck of a job out there. Yeah, he's playing good football this year. He's starting to grow into it. Then we've got to play at New Orleans, and I would got to believe that our boy, what's his quarter? Drew Brees is back. I mean, I got to believe that. He's already throwing a football again, so he's going to be back. And that's ESPN. That must be a Monday Night Football game then. It's a Monday night game. And then the Panthers, Jaguars. So I mean, our schedule doesn't get any easier, but that's the NFL. Welcome to it.
Yeah, I think this next upcoming stretch here, you've got Houston coming out of the bye week. That's obviously a huge game in the division. Both teams tied at 3-2 right now. We'll see, where Houston is, following that game with Kansas City. That's going to be, a big game, and hopefully Kansas City can help us out there a little bit and give Houston another loss. I mean, that's home against Kansas City. I have a tough time imagining them dropping 2 home games in a row, but hey, you never know. I mean, it could be it's the NFL any given Sunday. Many people have been seeing Indianapolis winning that game, last night. So you never know what's going to happen. But then you look at the stretch. You've got Denver, 1-4 on the season. Pittsburgh 1-4 on the season. Miami still looking for their first win of the season, and then Jacksonville at 2-3. So you've got right after that Houston game a stretch of 4 games against teams who have a combined, essentially 4 wins between them. So hopefully you hope you can take advantage of that, start to string some wins together. And hopefully if you can beat Houston and come out of the bye week with a win there, you can start to take control of the division. So it may not be the most difficult stretch of the season for the Colts coming out of their bye week, with those 4 losing record teams they have to play following Houston, but it's an important stretch, and they really need to take advantage of that. And, like I said, that game against Houston coming out of the bye week at home, that's going to be a big game, one of the biggest this season. Good thing Indianapolis gets a bye for that one because they need to be, all hands on deck, as healthy as they can be. And that's going to be a big, big game.
Agreed. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is I hope we see that defense that showed up against Kansas City last night the rest of the year. I was kind of tired of watching that soft zone defense they were playing. I thought it was kind of getting picked apart. They went to a man-to-man scheme. They used their big physical corners to jam guys at the line of scrimmage and just played them straight up man-to-man, and they looked way, way, way better. And hopefully the pass rush can continue to dominate like it did against Kansas City. But way better defensive performance, and I hope that's a sign of things to come versus, going back to that soft zone defense that everyone just kind of picked apart.
Yeah, and the only thing I can add to that is just that I think this team's been fairly consistent in how they played football all season long. I mean, we lost a couple games on our kicking, basically. We had opportunities to win. I mean, we should have beat San Diego. And Oakland, we had plenty of opportunity to beat Oakland too. And Oakland's an up-and-coming football team. I mean, we haven't even talked about them, and we'll save that for a different time. But they're getting good. Maybe Gruden's having some effect there in building them up. But we haven't been blown out of any game yet at all. So I think the consistency of the Colts is what's going to carry them through. And if they keep everybody healthy and don't deviate from Frank Wright's system, which I don't think Frank's going to let it happen, Coach Wright's going to let it happen, I think we'll be fine. And we go from there. Yeah. But it was fun. It was very fun to watch the game on Sunday night. First time, I'm in L.A., so I only get to see Colts games when they're on national TV, other than I watch them on Red Zone, because I'm too cheap to buy the NFL ticket package, which I probably need to do. But I get enough of it on Red Zone. But I like what I see. Just keep everybody healthy. Other than that, anything else?
No, I think we pretty much touched on it. Obviously a big win, and, I think the Colts are sitting in pretty good shape right now. It's
a huge win. I think it puts the Colts in the power rankings. if you can manhandle Kansas City like they did, and I think they manhandled Kansas City. I don't think they just eked out a win. I think they just took Kansas City out of the game entirely.
Yeah.
So, I don't think Kansas City really was ever in any position to win that football game. They were trying to stay even with us. Is what they were doing. So there you go. All right. So that wraps up Indianapolis Colts Weekly show for this week. Congratulations to the Colts on a great win over the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. And we'll be back next week. This is Steve Risley with Cole Hanna. Say goodbye, Cole.
Yeah, it's been a good podcast, and we'll be back with you next week here. Looking forward to it.
No, I said say goodbye, Cole.
All right, bye.
No, goodbye, Cole.
Goodbye. You want me to say goodbye, Cole?
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make this fun. All right, let's don't get bored with it. Go Colts. Great week for the Colts. Great win. All around solid performance. Thank you for listening, and we will be back on next week. Thank you very much.